What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and upcoming events to get you prepared for the week ahead. If that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do also provide a weekly schedules or weekly technicals on Sundays. So you can check it out there. Also, you can check me out at Hemi137 on X to give you daily pulses on the market. So before we get started, remember to hit the like and let's go ahead and roll on into this. Now, as you should know, going forward, it's going to be a little bit quieter, but this is why you need to take into account the cycle of the year. There are cycles that occur throughout every year typically. So around this time of year, where you're looking at the end of February, March time period, the market typically pulls back. Then April's typically a bullish month, so just keep that in mind. There is still very much a debt bomb. There's still very much a banking crisis going on. These are things you need to take into account. Right now, the market won't just sell off. The market needs a catalyst to start to sell. We've seen some weakness just going through these previous earnings, that the banks are still very strong. Some individual companies are very strong, but just the cloud space in general is weak. Businesses aren't taking out new development loans. They are not creating any new. So ultimately understand that over the past year and a half, 2 years, what you've been doing is creating artificial growth in the economy that doesn't actually exist. Now, governing governance or applying that is not going to produce solid growth in the United States. So this is what the current administration is trying to do to fix that. There's a lot of headline news and stuff, but ultimately, what you want to see is you're going to need to see action for anything to occur. May not agree with some of it, may agree with most of it. I don't know where you stand. This isn't a political discussion here, but ultimately just trying to understand what is being passed and what actually matters and is actually making an impact on what's currently going on. Now, understand, yes, the debt is very, very, very high, but doing the best that they can with what they have. Again, it will take a lot longer than just a term for a president to change things around. It will take many, many terms for that to correct. So, with that being said, let's dive back into the past week. I know the past week we're going to continue to have earnings all throughout the rest of the quarter. You need to understand that. But when all industry leaders do finish reporting, the market essentially makes a direction from that point. You still get a lot of good sentiments of the market to give you a pulse on the market. But again, ultimately understand, once all industry leaders are reporting, then the market moves. And you're seeing that reflected in this week, as one of the last essentially big industry leader being reporting is Nvda. Yes, the Nvda has essentially built up a 6% weight on the index now, so it does matter what they report. Over the past couple of earnings, they've done well, but the forward guidance has essentially shown some fear, as a lot of people are aiming towards a recession that's going to occur over the next couple of months. So, with that being said, we did have Walmart earnings. Now, again, they did well, but ultimately, again, looking at the forward guidance, this is what's hard to keep up for Walmart. You have to understand, the only reason Walmart's doing so hot is because essentially the top 10% of people that have wealth in this country, they are even purchasing stuff cheaper at Walmart. They've essentially made all their purchases within Walmart. So when Walmart does extremely well, that means the economy is extremely bad. But the problem is that's not going to last forever. And we're starting to see that turn, even though the markets in general have not turned yet. They're not going to hit those ridiculous growth rates anymore at this point. And so we did see quite a significant pullback on Walmart, expecting it to potentially even see even more moving forward until we can cut rates, until we can get inflation down, until the consumer is confident again. That is not going to change. But again, watching some of these specific earnings, it will foretell you what is going to occur when things do start to change, and we could have potentially have reached the bottom to actually have a good, solid bull market. So Celsius also reported they had a huge acquisition. I don't remember exactly the name of the energy drink, but nonetheless, it was worth them exploding back up overnight. I think it was like we were essentially just waiting for that one thing to occur for them to actually start flipping everything back and doing well again. So that was interesting to watch there. I expect them to continue to start pushing up to that 100 mark again. I think is very much a strong possibility, but again, we will see. Now, $1.4 billion worth of ETH and other assets have been hacked on Bybit. That was huge news towards the end of the week, with all this consideration that the dollar may go away, that we may have to build out a Bitcoin reserve in case things go bad. Now you got Bybit getting hacked, and it's apparently North Korea that essentially stealing this $1.4 billion of ETH. Which is way more than it has essentially a large source of Ethereum. So very, very interesting to go on. Again, the more we get into this crypto space, the more regulation, everything that goes on, that's going to be extremely important. Now they have essentially a audit system that if you're just scamming people, and now you're going to be potentially spending some time in jail. So just keep that in mind now as we are starting to see more regulation creep in with this new administration. So Japan's inflation rate climbs to 4% in January, highest in 2 years. So you're talking about even 2 years ago when we had that 0.9%, right? And that was, we are essentially really blocking out a lot of what's currently going on. Yes, the illegal immigration has helped us to an extent keep low wages, because again, if you're not legal here, then that means you can have below minimum wage. And that's kind of what's been driving our growth and essentially inflation, and why inflation is still high. But with that being said, again, you remove all that, and what does it really look underneath? You're going to start seeing that what you're seeing across from China and Europe, and the massive depression that's going around the globe, because yes, we are in a global depression, that ultimately they are, and much the same. The U.S. will start reflecting that, and then you'll start to get panic cuts from the Fed. Again, the Fed will be reactionary and not preemptive. So that's what you need to keep in mind there. Now, the M2 money supply has hit 289%, which is the highest we haven't seen since 2000.com bubble. Now, the AI hype, I very, very much believe in AI. Again, even just like in the dot-com boom, yes, it was a huge hot keyword that essentially blew up a lot of industries. If you mentioned .com, your stocks were going to the moon. Ultimately, only to find out there was only a few selective handful that were actually worth anything. And the same type of scenario that's going on here. AI is a huge thing. Everybody's putting AI in all their conference calls and whatsoever, but ultimately, again, understand there's only going to be a handful of actually companies that do well. Another, Nvda themselves have just pretty much cornered that market with a little bit of leeway for AMC, which they're potentially might be another. They might actually have a big run from the inference perspective on the chip. So we will watch and we'll see how that plays out. But again, there's going to be very slim actually numbers of not just the hardware now. Now we're starting to transition more into the software aspect of it. And you need to have a good use case for the AI. If you just say you have AI, well, it needs to be proven at this point. So that's the kind of stage you're going through there. And then, like I said, we are very much on the cusp of robotics. You're seeing more and more robotics come out, and what that's actually going to mean in the future. I believe Optimus is supposed to ramp up to 600 produced next year. And then again, it's going to quadruple every year after that. So yes, you're very much in that stage in life where robotics are starting to be huge now. So, and then this upcoming week, we do have some GDP numbers dropping on Thursday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then on Friday, we have core PCE. Again, those will have potentially intraday moves. I don't expect the market to change direction on those. The only thing that will do that this week is Nvda. And so that is on Wednesday after close. Now, upcoming events, pivots, we won't really have anything until we get back into March. For core, inflation will be extremely big in March. Monetary policy will really be dictated off what comes out of the core. If core starts to rise again, that is going to be largely concerning, and you'll see a massive pullback in big tech and crypto that have essentially been holding up this market to this point. So that's where we could get our big correction in mid-March if we don't get some headline news before that time. Ultimately, they can manufacture, and they have manufactured many times throughout the years, to drive narrative on why the market would be selling, because the market's not just going to sell. You have to have a story. You have to have fear in the market for that to happen. And then next earnings cycle, again, after Nvidia, I do have the chart here. We're going to go over that real quick. But again, after this week, I'm not going to really look at charts. Then we're kind of really, again, looking at the schedule here, but we're really looking at what's going on. And not until the next earnings cycle, which doesn't start till April. So we've got a whole another month and a half where this whole cycle repeats. And then again, it depends on what is going on with the industry leaders. And then once they report, then everything's fine and dandy. The market can feel confident moving in one way or the next. So all those earnings do matter very much. Now, this is what's really interesting is the expected move for the index is 113. So they're pricing in a lot this week. Again, expected moves are important to be mindful of and kind of know what the average is. And then when it's outside of that average, and this week on the index, it's outside of that average. And why so is because Nvidia holds 6% of the index. That's massive. And every other Mag 7 stock has not been doing hot at all, and they've been actually selling off. Now, they just recently started recovering. This is why I said Nvidia would be the anchor point, because if they had bad earnings, they would start to at least hold stuff and at least dilute the fear until you get a new earnings that hopefully does good. And if it does good, price action will really, really matter. However they report on Wednesday, they can report really good and still sell off. They can, report really, you don't want to report really bad and then forward guidance being really bad, because that would essentially be the dagger to the market right there and drop the market down dramatically if that did happen. But then Tesla, again, 21 is still very high. Boeing 7 is about average. And then JP Morgan is very high at 7. Again, it's typically at 4. So they are anticipating a lot to happen this week. But before we get into that, let's kind of look at why this week, essentially, they're pricing in the end of the world this week. Some big earnings still going on. Again, there's going to be continued good earnings that I'll still mention and talk about, because again, it can give you a good pulse on the market. But again, what we're looking at here is what's actually going to move the market, and that is primarily this guy here. Nvidia Wednesday after close will be the biggest earnings here. This will close out this quarter's big earnings or industry leaders reporting. Yes, there's going to be tons of earnings still going on, but that's not going to move the market as much as Nvidia will at this given point. So Monday, obviously Domino's, that one can really move well. This stock has been, I guess, over the past decade, it's been one of the best growth stocks. And also Warren Buffett has bought more Domino's. So that'd be interesting to watch on Monday morning after the close. Again, hims and hers will be very, very good and interesting to watch. I do like Zoom as well. They've kind of recovered quite a bit actually over the past couple months. But ultimately, are we going to see pandemic level numbers again? I don't know. But again, their papers and rap sheets still looks really good on them. So Zoom does look really good despite what the stock price was saying over the past couple months. Or the past couple years, I should say. So Home Depot will give you a great insight into people moving, people doing anything against their house. So if their numbers are bad, like we've seen over the past year and a half at this point, they have reported really, really bad earnings. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, they've been on a steady decline for quite a while. So that one would be interesting to watch there. Not really watching much here on Tuesday. I think Instacart could be limited. I take that back. There's a couple here. Instacart, I think, is really good to watch. Lemonade, I've been keeping Lemonade back on the radar. Lemonade could really move AI and just loans. Again, I think that space could really move. Workday is strong potential there as well. And then Wednesday, you have Lowe's will be important, much like Home Depot. You want to have good numbers out there that will give you the turning point when the market's actually turning and people are actually starting to buy homes again. So if they're continuing to have bad earnings, that means that there's nobody out there buying houses at this point. Then obviously on Wednesday, the biggest day of the week here with Nvidia, that is really, really going to matter. All eyes will be on Nvidia. Snowflake will get affected either way on that as well, just for providing essentially data center and support for AI. That will be extremely, extremely important. You have some other really good ones with C3 AI, Salesforce. Those are good. But again, those aren't going to move the market. The Nvidia earnings is really going to move the market from that point. Got a lot of banks reporting this week as well. That's something you need to keep in mind. Realty on Monday after close, that will be important. Trip.com will be important. Clove this week. Soundhound will be big this week as well. On how they do, I think they will do very well. If Nvda does well, I think they will do very well as well. That'd be one to really watch on Thursday. Fubo is good. I don't invest in Fubo, but given what the track record that you're seeing with Netflix, I think Fubo could potentially blow up into something nowhere near as large, but I think it could get a good chunk of that. So be interesting to watch to see how they do as well. But if you have made it this far, go ahead and drop a like. Comment down below what you're watching this week and what your thoughts on thesis is for the week. Again, this video is going to be shorter because there really isn't a lot going on until the market starts really correcting back. This is pretty much what we're going to get. And like I said, every time the new earnings cycle comes around, we have a lot more news to go through. Maybe there's an event that occurs as well that can really change the direction of the market. That's when we really start dissecting it here. But you do get through some stagnant times like right now, which pricing in the end of the world. If something does happen with Nvidia, we could have massive news we can discuss all next weekend. But nonetheless, you can even still check me out on Hemi 137 there, where I give a daily pulse. So Thursday morning, I'll be talking about what happens with Nvidia that evening. So, but with all that being said, if you did make it this far, go ahead and drop a like. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.